Hi there, I want to talk to you a little bit about safety equipment. Why do I wear safety equipment? Because I want to protect myself. I always wear as much safety equipment as I can get when either I'm just out riding or if I'm racing. Okay, so first off, we'll start with the helmet. Why do I wear the helmet? Well, because I want to protect my head. Your head's one of the most important parts of your body. Without your head, you go nowhere. So always remember a helmet, please. Next off, I wear goggles. I always wear a good quality goggle. I wear these because it protects my eyes. You never know when another rider, you may be riding behind him, he'll throw up a rock, hit you in the eye, put your eye out. So you may get a rock thrown off another machine, or a rock may fly off your own tire. So you always want to wear a good quality goggle. Next we go to the jersey. I always wear a good quality jersey. It protects my chest, my upper body, as well as my arms, if I should fall off or maybe bang with another rider while racing. Next, I wear good quality gloves. These are leather gloves. They actually have padded on the outside. The reason why they wear these is because they never know when you might fall off or you might bang with another rider or a tree if you're out trail riding. Who knows what? They actually protect your hands. Next off, I wear what you call leathers. These are nylon pants. They still call them leathers. They used to be leather in the olden days, so that's why they're called that. But they actually protect you very well. They protect your legs. Next off, we go to what you call the shin guards, knee cups. These protect my knees. Okay, they're very, very important because you only get one set of knees. You don't want to bang your knees up and go to the hospital because you weren't wearing knee pads. Next off, I go to the boots. These are heavy quality leather boot. They protect my ankles. Okay, you always want to wear something that's going to protect your ankles because your feet get banged around quite a bit. So we always want to wear boots. Tell you what, always be safety minded. Always wear all the safety gear you can get. Make sure you always wear a helmet. Go out, be safety minded, have a good time, and have a lot of fun. Thank you.
The starting gate comes down.
That's right, and it looks again like Gary Denton had the whole shot. Look for quad racer number 3.
Gary Denton wins it, and of course wins it overall.
And in the front is doing a nice job in securing his lead, and that's Gary Denton.
So Gary Denton goes out in front and heading for the checkered flag. Denton, he's got the checker, he's got the goal. Going for a $4,000 purse, and Gary Denton wins it.
Gary Denton, ATV's all-time winningest racer, gives you secret insights to successful riding. Whether you're serious about racing or just like to ride for fun, join Gary as he shows you how to master starts, turns, whoops, and jumps. Also included are tips on diet, exercise, and bike setup. Now, let's meet the rider who continues to dominate the ATV circuit.
Gary Denton. They nicknamed him the Chino Charger. He's the winningest ATV rider in the history of motorsports. Gary, you've just clinched the 250 national title. Congratulations. What's next?
Thank you, Larry. Well, winning the championship was everything. So, to me, I guess you got to go on and try to win more championships. I'd like to win the Mickey Thompson Championship. I'd like to win the 250 Championship again. And I'd also like to win the 500 Championship. He's the first rider to ever win 3.
Let's talk about Gary Denton, the person. When were you born, and where?
I was born in 1959 in Pomona Valley, Pomona Valley Hospital.
Marital status?
Non-married.
Non-married.
Yes, at this point.
Your hobbies, when you're not racing, what do you like to do?
I love to fish, Larry. Everybody gets down on me for fishing.
Why?
I just love to fish.
Why?
I don't know. They go, you like to fish? And girls go, you like to fish? But anyway, it's great. I like to fish. I do fishing articles in some of the magazines and stuff, and people see me back east. They come up to me with all these. This lady came up with some lures they make, and people would say, yeah, whenever you want to go fish in this area, you know, come on, we'll take you along. So that's kind of a neat part of it.
Music. What kind of music do you like? Rock and roll?
No, I'm not. Rock and roll's fine. Basically, I like probably top 40 stuff. Anything, you know, whatever sounds good. I don't like any certain type of music, you know, in general.
Favorite foods?
Pasta. Yeah, I
carbohydrates.
Love, yeah, carbohydrates. I love pizza and I love spaghetti.
Who got you started racing?
Well, me and my brothers had some bikes, started riding around together, and there was going to be a race at the local park over here by the house, Claude Osteen's Cycle Park, many years ago, and just started racing. We went there and raced. I won my first event. Had to go pick the trophy up the next weekend, so just decided to race from there on.
How old were you then?
Got about 14 years old.
That's incredible. What did your parents think about your racing, Gary?
They didn't want me to ride. You know how parents are. No, we don't want you doing that. You know, you can ride, but you can't race. Anyway, I begged my mom a whole bunch, and she begged my father in turn, and from there I got to race.
And when did you turn pro?
Well, I started racing when I was 14, so it was a year and a half later, so yeah, 15 and a half, 16.
When did you start racing quads?
God, it's been about 3 seasons ago. It was in '85.
How, and this sounds like a silly question, but how is it different racing a quad from a motorcycle? Difference?
Motorcycle has a lot faster pace. It's really, really depressing. When I first started racing quads, I thought, God, you know, I've got to be more talented than these guys, but these guys can go as fast as me. And it, you know, it's just a different type of racing. You know, a motorcycle, you know, if a guy goes into the turn and he goes wide open and he makes it, say he hits a little berm that's that high and he can rail around the turn. On
That's
a
right.
quad, you go in and you go in real hot, there's no berm. You can just slide it, and if you slide too much, you scrub off, you just scrub off too much speed and you don't round the turn and you lose traction. Actually, you go in a turn, it looks like you're going fast, but you're not getting anywhere.
Easier on a quad than a motorcycle?
Cornering, no, it's not easier.
Really?
Because it's more abusive on your body if it's a rough track. If it's a TT track, yeah, it's easier because it's flat. You know, and most motocross courses they're rough tracks, and that's all there is on a motorcycle. But I like it because you have a mixture, and it takes a real talented guy to be able to ride both types. You know, you have TT and you have motocross, so that's what makes it good. And then you have the stadiums too. So we have a lot of mixture of racing, and it's fun.
Why did you choose racing as a career?
Gosh, I didn't really choose it, Larry. It just kind of happened. You know, you get into racing when you're younger and you become professional, and that's all you want to do. And then pretty soon you see these dreams of maybe doing it as a living, and you get kind of caught up in it, and that's all you know how to do. And so that's what you do.
What does it take, Gary Denton, to be #1?
It takes a lot of things, but mainly it takes a lot of determination. If you want to win events and win the championship, gosh, a lot of determination.
What tips can you give the rider who's just starting out racing?
Practice makes perfect. The main thing is to never ride over your head and just to practice, 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 you know, especially when you're first starting out, because that's training and stuff. Yeah, that's fine and dandy, but practice is the most important thing when you're first starting out. And one of the main things is if you believe in yourself, you can do anything you want to. But if you don't believe in yourself, then why race?
How much time do you spend in training, and what do you do when you train?
Being in top physical condition often means the difference between first and second. What I'd like to do now is take you through the training program that has helped to make me a champion.
Any physical training program can be dangerous if proper and reasonable precautions are not observed. Therefore, you should see your doctor before beginning any training program, especially if you're already under medical care, recovering from an injury, or are simply unsure of your present physical condition. You see, the time you spend off your bike is almost as important as the time you spend on it. Since a quad weighs almost 1/3 more than that of a motorcycle, physical and cardiovascular strength is a must. Always remember, you must train to race competitively and never make a competition out of training. If you do, you could burn out. A good weight program consists of exercises to build both the upper and lower body. If you don't have access to a gym, free weight training offers an alternative and is convenient as it can be done at home or it can be taken on the road. The physical demands of ATV racing have been found to be among the most strenuous of all sports known to man. To be successful in motocross involves not only going fast, but being able to do so for at least 2 entire motos. Now, this type of strength is known as cardiovascular endurance. Now, there's a number of activities that you can participate in to improve your endurance. The sports most commonly selected by riders as their primary form of endurance training include running, cycling, especially mountain biking off-road, swimming, racquetball, skiing, tennis, and water skiing if you're close enough to water. During the off-season is when your training should be most intensive to gear up to your top level. However, during the racing season itself, your endurance training should be strictly geared towards maintaining that top racing fitness. Once you've gotten into prime condition, it's really no longer necessary to train quite as hard as you did to get to that level. To do so could result in overtraining or burnout. To be capable of producing maximum physical performances and minimizing injury while riding, it's important to have a high degree of flexibility. Joint and muscle flexibility is perhaps the most neglected and underemphasized element in most riders' training programs, but it's also one of the most important. Always concentrate on relaxing while exercising, as being tense tightens the muscles and prohibits the movements necessary for gains in your muscle flexibility. Proper nutrition is also essential for successful riding and racing preparation. Most riders take extreme care in preparing the fuel that their bikes run on, and you should be doing the same thing in selecting the fuel that you put into your body. While riding, your diet should be as simple as possible. The best snacks to bring with you to the racetrack include fresh fruits, raw vegetables, and raw unsalted nuts. However, the meals that you eat prior to, during, and after a race can also influence your performance. Stay away from processed foods, fast foods, soft drinks, and other foods that are high in sugar, salt, and fat content.
Before we go out to the track, let me teach you a few things about control setup. You're riding. First, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the controls. Talk about the handlebars first. I like to have my cross brace centered in the clamps. That gives me the position that I like. Next off, I like to have the levers not at a level position, but at a slightly angled position. Why do I want these things? Because it gives me my elbows up, attack position. Why do I want the attack position? A lot of riders ride with their elbows down. When they ride with their elbows down, they virtually have no movement. When they hit a big rut, elbow goes into their side, and they get swapped off the machine. You don't want that. What you want is your elbows up, you hit a big rut, you can move with it, you can flow. That's what I call the attack position. Next off, a lot of riders, what they do is, for a bad habit is, a lot of times they gas the machine, elbow drops on this side, the other follows, now they're in that bad position again. So what you want to do is you actually want to, as you're going into a turn, maybe find a smooth spot on the track. That's generally where I do it. I regrip. I get my elbows back up, now I'm in the attack position. Go out and try it. I think it'll help you. Whether you're play riding or out at the track, the first thing you want to do before hopping on your bike is to survey the course. Walk the entire track. Keep your eyes open for any hidden obstacles. This is also the time you want to start looking at the different lines in the track. Next, take a spin around the track, not at full speed, but to get a feel for the terrain and try out the different lines. Start is the most important part of the race. First one out of the gate usually gets the checkered. Let me show you some of my techniques that'll put you out front. The key to a good start is picking the best starting area. Try to scope it out before the race. If everyone has a straight run to the first turn, take the inside line. This is the shortest distance to the turn. Clear any loose dirt that may be in your way, as you want maximum traction. Always remember this. You want the maximum amount of traction that you can get. In races where you can get in front of the gate, level out any ruts and clear any rocks out of the way. Pat it down. Make sure that you got all the loose stuff out of the way. All starting areas are different. Some have loose terrain. If you're going to start in first gear, keep your weight over the rear wheels so you'll have hookup, traction. Race position. This is the relaxed position. Prior to the start, you want to be loose. You want to save that energy for the start. Race position. If you need to start in second, get your body over the bars. You want to keep that front end from coming up. But you also want to enable the rear wheels to spin just enough to get that maximum amount of traction while starting in second gear. This is the relaxed position. Race position. Here's what a good start should look like. To get the one up on everyone at the start, begin rolling for the gate drops. This should get you a full bike length in front of everyone else going into the first turn. This is an example of a bad start. Remember to start rolling before the gate drops. I hesitated and also transferred too much weight over the rear wheels, causing me to back off the throttle. If this was a race, I'd be 2 full bike lengths behind the pack. Now let's take the start and identify some of the key elements that can help you win. First, helmet down, elbows up, and your eyes on the starting gate. When it flinches, you're gone. Second, note the body positioning. I'm positioned for maximum traction. In a second gear start, you want your body weight over the front wheels to keep from looping out. Third, clutch control. Let the clutch drag, make it almost all the way out so that when you flinch your fingers, you can pin the throttle and let it roll. Fourth, throttle control. Let it run about 1/4 out so that the gas is already on. Do a few practice starts to get it dialed in. Know the proper gear and body position that is right for you. Now let's watch in slow motion. This is what the start should look like once you have it dialed in. Not all motocross tracks have starting gates. Some of them have anthills, lumps of dirt that is put in front of the riders in the starting grid. An entirely different strategy is necessary for the anthills. Here you want to lift the front end over the anthill, then quickly push both the bars and the pegs back onto the ground, and then get your weight over the back tire so that you can achieve maximum traction. Once again, lift over the anthill, push the bars and pegs down, and get your weight over the back end. Lift, push, transfer weight. It's as easy as that. Now let's watch in slow motion. Now let's look at some starts in a racing situation. I'm the rider closest to you. I got a bad start. Why? Because I hesitated, but made up for it and ended up getting the hole shot. Let's go back and see what I did right and wrong. First, I hesitated. Remember, you want to be rolling before the gate drops. As you can see, I'm one of the last ones out of the gate. To make up for it, I give it a lot of throttle and transfer all of my weight to the rear of the machine to keep the wheels from spinning. Now this gives me the hole shot. Here we are at the Suzuki Quad Racer Championships at the LA Coliseum. When you're out in front of the start, drive to the inside. Get way back on the seat, pull the clutch in, and keep the engine slightly revved. This is a good defense against getting rammed, and the engine won't die. To drive out, go from the inside to the outside. This will block others from going wide. If you're not in the lead, try to go wide to get around all that traffic. Notice the rider next to the Suzuki banner. He gets a little too much traction, causing him to wheelie and get a bad start. Races are won and lost in the turns. Let me show you some ways to get through them faster. When diving into a corner, you want to come into it as hard as possible. Grab a whole lot of brake, get back on the gas, and blast off the corner. This one starts off right, but improper gear selection causes the engine to bog, and seconds are lost. Now let's break it down. First, you want to dive into this corner as hard as possible. Because of the nature of this turn, you want to transfer your weight to the rear of the machine. This will allow for better braking. Second, grab a whole bunch of front and rear brake. Third, lean into the turn so the bike doesn't high side. Once set up, get back on the gas and blast off the turn. Once again, let's look at a tight corner from a different angle. Now watch in slow motion. Now that you've seen how to properly control your bike and your body by diving into tight corners, let's look at another type of obstacle, the sweeping tight corner, that you'll encounter on almost any motocross or TT track and certainly out in the open. The key here is to keep the revs up, the tires spinning, and the power constant throughout the turn without spinning out. One secret, slip the clutch through the turn to keep those revs up. The problem an inexperienced rider has is going through the turn using only throttle control. When they hit a rut or traction spot, they have to get on and off the gas, which slows them down. Let's break it down. Start the corner with a slide. The front end is a pivot point. The surface will determine how you will slide. On a hard groove track, use the rear brake, then get back on the gas in one smooth motion. If it's tacky, use a lot more rear brake to get it to slide, then drop the clutch with the gas on and hang way off the machine. If it's slippery, sit more upright to force as much weight as possible to the outside wheel to get as much forward traction as possible. One hot tip is that when you start to slide, it may want to come all the way around. If it does, slip the clutch with the gas on. That way you'll keep the revs up but won't get as much drive to the rear wheels and avoid a spin out. This is what it should look like once you have it dialed in. Now watch in slow motion. The slide is controlled by body weighting, rear brake, and throttle. Without connecting the three together, you're not going to be set up for a slide properly. Whoop, little problem here. Didn't keep the power constant. Should have used that clutch instead of the throttle. Remember, you want to keep the power constant. You don't want to get off and on the gas. This will slow you down. You want to be able to go all the way through the slide without having to let off the throttle. Slide forward to unload the rear end, and that lets the back end get loose. Then control it with either the brakes or by slipping the clutch. If you start to spin out, pull in the clutch and slide back a bit. This cuts the power to the rear wheels and allows them to roll and get whatever traction is available. Here it is at full speed. Now watch in slow motion. Different tracks demand different cornering techniques in racing, such as in this turn at Carlsbad. Here I go through this turn standing up, while the rider behind me goes through the turn sitting down. I feel that through this turn it was easier on my body to be standing up. Neither technique is wrong, just whatever is most comfortable for you.
And there's only 5 laps in this event, so if anybody's going to overtake Gary Denton, they're going to have to get with the program right away.
On this type of track, the surface is sandy, as well as a mixture of whoop-de-doos. The key here is to set up and drive to the turn with only a partial slide. Down the straightaways, you want to be up off the seat with your weight towards the rear so that the front end will be light and your rear wheels will be on the ground. Now you have maximum traction. Whoops give a lot of riders fits, but they don't have to. Let's break them down step by step, and soon you'll be leaving the pack far behind. Whoops are becoming more and more commonplace on tracks across the country. At first, you saw them only at stadium races, but today it seems like they're everywhere, especially in the second moto. There's a lot of time to be made up in them, but it takes practice. The key to going through small whoop-de-doos like this is to position yourself in the middle of the machine so it can rock back and forth as if it was a teeter-totter. Staying up on the pegs is mandatory. The back end is going to swap back and forth from side to side no matter what you do with your body position. Don't be afraid of it. Use your body to balance out. If your bike swaps to the right, push your body to the left. If the bike goes to the left, balance it out with the body position to the right. Centering yourself on the bike will keep you going faster than anyone on the track. The attack stance is important to maintain. Arms and legs flexed, head forward, and ready to react with or against the machine. Keep your arms and legs loose and let them act as extra shock absorbers. With the bigger stuff, you again want to be up on the pegs and in the attack stance. If you're sitting down on the seat going through stuff like this, you're only asking to get thrown over the bars. Use the first jump to catapult you as far as possible across the next few whoop-de-doos. Back to real speed. In slow motion, you can appreciate the balance necessary to go fast through whoop-de-doo sections like this. The thing to keep in mind is to allow your body to react much like shock absorbers. If you are in the correct body position, you'll be able to handle virtually anything the track can throw at you. We've talked about how keeping your body loose and limber gives you more control of your racer. What happens when you let them stiffen up? That's right, you can get out of control real fast. Here on this uphill corner, there are quite a few ruts and whoop-de-doos that you have to face. Remember to stay loose and in the middle of your machine. Now, watch me. I'm out in front, picking the smooth line through the bumps. I'm loose, I'm fluid, I'm going on to take the checkered. Now, watch the riders behind me. They go into the whoop-de-doos, wrong body positioning. They're stiff, bam, over the bars. Don't let that happen to you.
MC Supercross champion, there is Clark. Bumps at one of the jumps, and Denton goes by him. So Gary Denton goes out in front.
In ATV racing, there are all types of jumps. Let's break them down individually, and I'll show you how to spend more time on the ground and less time in the air. Jumping in ATV isn't as easy as aiming for a bump and gassing it. Here we have a series of jumps. The object is to go as fast as possible, yet you want to get back on the ground, get that traction, and get set up for the next jump. Now the approach on this jump is right, but incorrect body positioning causes the front end to lift up too much. I got too far back on the seat and the front end came up too high. Approach the jump standing up. and try to land on the rear wheels using your legs to soak up some of the impact. One of the keys here is not to get too much height, but to go for distance. As soon as the bike comes up, push it back to the ground as quick as you can. There's more traction on the ground than there is in the air. Once again, full speed and power. This is a fairly high jump. Not only that, but there's a turn right after it. I'm actually pre-jumping from the base of the jump. This will cut air time, plus get me back on the ground and set up for the turn. This is a bad one. What I did here is on the takeoff, I leaned too far forward, causing both the front and rear wheels to land on the ground at the same time. Now let's break it down. To pre-jump correctly, push the front of the machine into the base of the jump. This compresses the suspension, causing your takeoff to be from the middle of the jump instead of the top, thus minimizing air time. This is what it should look like once you have it dialed in. Now watch in slow motion. Sometimes you want the opposite effect, to gain more air time, such as when jumping a tabletop. Sometimes you don't know if you can make it all the way over. In this case, try hitting the jump at medium speed to see where it takes you. Gradually pick up the pace until you can clear the whole tabletop at once. Push your weight into the machine on the takeoff and compress the suspension on the face of the jump. Gas it as it leaves the lip and pull the machine up underneath you as the suspension snaps back into place. A double jump is much like a tabletop. You want to pre-jump for maximum air. Approach the jump in the attack stance. Body forward, arms and legs bent. Again, push your machine into the face of the jump to bottom the suspension as much as possible. Gas it as you leave the lip and pull the machine up underneath you. The key point here is to land on the back side of the second jump that you're clearing. In order to get maximum air time as well as a proper machine position, you want to lean forward on the takeoff more than you normally would. This will allow you to land nose first and to clear that second jump. Now watch in slow motion. Once you're out on the track in a racing situation, you don't have time to pick up the pace. Remember, hit those jumps, bumps, and turns, and go for it.
And you had to win one of them to qualify for tonight. There were 5 up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and the top 3 from San Francisco.
Racing. Here he comes off the devil's drop, and the checkered flag is out. As Gary off the devil's drop, and the checkered flag is out as Gary Denton takes the first moto for the...
Denton, he's got the checkered, he's got the gold. Going for a $4,000 purse, and Gary Denton wins it. Here at the LA Coliseum. Denton, he's got the checkered, he's got the gold. Going for a $4,000 purse, and Gary Denton wins it.
The one thing you don't do is let your boots off the peg.
Passing is a very important part of racing. If you're not a good passer, chances are you're not going to win very many races. Most passes are made from the inside. You usually try to square off the turn and dive underneath your opponent. You can also try to fake them out, go into the turn together faster than he can, and outbrake him while he loses control. You need to have eyes in the back of your head to successfully block pass. You have to know where your opponent is at every moment, but you can't let him know this. When he closes in, you take the inside line and shut the door. To get a slower rider out of the way, you can use the rev test. Simply pull in the clutch and rev the engine as you're going into a corner. He'll think you're coming in too hot and will quickly move out of the way. You can also bump tires a little to intimidate him, but be careful not to get tangled up.
Look at that. Tried the inside line. Got a wheel inside Denton, but Denton held
Let's take a look at the tips I've given you. Starts. Remember to start rolling before the gate drops. Let the clutch drag and hold the throttle on a steady 1/4 turn. When diving into a tight corner, come into it as hard and as long as possible. Grab a whole lot of front brake, get back on the seat, get on the gas, and blast off the turn. On sweepers, keep the revs up, the tires spinning, and the power constant throughout the turn without spinning out. The key here, slip the clutch. On slides, remember, they're controlled by body weighting, rear brake, throttle, and clutch control. Put them all together and keep the power constant. For smaller whoop-de-doos, make sure you keep up on the pegs and in the middle of the machine so it can move underneath you like a teeter-totter. Keep a steady pace up. Not too much gas, but enough to keep you from plowing into them. In the bigger whoop-de-doos, again, get yourself up on the pegs and in the attack stance. And whenever possible, use the first jump to catapult you as far as possible and a steady throttle to help you skim across the rest. On double jumps, remember, they're similar to tabletops. Pre-jump for maximum air and lean forward to get that proper machine position. You want to land on the back side of that second jump. For single jumps, stand up on the approach, stay in the middle of the machine, land on your rear wheels, and use your legs to soak up as much of the impact as possible. Don't go for height, but instead go for distance. To pre-jump correctly, hit the jump as straight as you can, arms and legs flexed, head forward, while at the same time staying relaxed and flexible. In order to gain more airtime, such as on a tabletop jump, compress the suspension on the face of the jump. Gas it as you leave the lip. Pull the machine up underneath you as the suspension snaps back. As for passing, try to square off the turn and dive underneath your opponent. If that doesn't work, it's time for the block pass. Close in, take the inside line, and then close the door on him, leaving him no place to go. Let's talk about sponsors. Remember, a sponsor is one of the most important parts of a racing program. A lot of people say, well, hey, how do I support my sponsor? Well, I tell you, one of the ways you do it is to display the sponsor stickers on the machine. Okay, that's first off. You want to support these people. Why? Why do you want to support them? Because they're supporting you. Always remember that. They're taking care of you. You should take care of them. Another way you can support your sponsor is you run heat transfers up on the jersey. These show up well in race shots, and the public can see them. That's what a sponsor wants to see. Always remember, be professional and support the people that are supporting you. So now you know how to get the whole shot. You know how to dive into the corners a little harder and come out of them a little faster. You know how to attack the whoop-de-doos and the double jumps. More importantly, you know how to take the checkered flag. Congratulations! and I'll be looking for you in the winner's circle.